If you are a fan of gender fluid elf princess who come from the dark and want to kill you the first time you meet them and then don't even know you the second time that you meet, this book could be for you. But anyway, why did I recommend it for Yeonjun? Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. This is raraskpopspot. 안녕하세요 친구들. 내 채널에 다시 오신 것을 환영합니다. 이것은 raraskpopspot. And we are back with another K-pop group book rec video. Today I am doing book recommendations for the members of Tomorrow by Together. In my first K-pop group book rec video, I did 17. 17 are my alt group, but Tomorrow by Together is actually the reason that this channel exists today. They were the very first K-pop group that I ever got into 3 years ago, and they are the group that I've been a fan of the longest. So they were the next most logical group, in my opinion, for me to make a book rec video for. If my first book rec video was for my alt group, then it felt only right that my second book rec video be for my first group. It seems like with my first idol group book rec video, I found my people. I found fellow K-pop fans who love to read. Reading has been my #1 hobby for literally my entire life. From the time that I learned to walk and talk, would literally pick up picture books and bring them to my mom and like sit down in her lap and say, "Read, mama." And I have been a reader ever since. So reading has always been the most special thing to me. It has taken me places that I would have never been without it. And K-pop has become, I guess I would say, probably my #2 hobby. So I love making these videos. I'm really excited that y'all enjoyed the last video for 17 book recs, because I was like, there are other people out there who also love K-pop and book recs and are actually excited about this extremely niche content that I'm putting out to the world. So I hope that you continue to enjoy these videos. I'm gonna keep making them. I have no shortage of book recommendations and no shortage of idol groups that I'm a fan of, so I will be continuing to make these videos. I so hope that this video finds fellow MOAs who love to read. I am just very excited to be putting this book rec list together today, and I genuinely hope that this video finds more K-pop fans who love to read. So without further ado, we'll get into the main content now. Thank you so much for the love on my first idol group book rec video. I was actually really surprised. I'm not gonna lie, I did not think that that video was going to do as well as it did. So thank you all so much for engaging with that one, for showing it some love. I hope that this series continues to be something that sparks joy and that you continue to get good book recs out of them. Even if you are not a fan of Tomorrow by Together, all of these books are good. Like, I'm never gonna recommend a book that I didn't enjoy. So while I am specifically recommending books that I think the members would enjoy, they're all good books, and I would recommend all of them to anyone. So even if you're not a MOA, even if you are not a K-pop fan, I hope that you still enjoy the book recs for today's video. Just like last time, I don't know if I should call this a disclaimer or whatever, but just a reminder, I guess, that these are all completely subjective. It's based a lot on vibes, yes, but also based on, you know, the pieces of their personalities that they have chosen to share with us online. So I want to make that very clear that this is all just based on the public image that they have presented of themselves. But a lot of thought and intentionality went into this book rec list once again, and I really did recommend books that I have read and enjoyed, obviously, and books that I would truly recommend to the members, once again with nothing but goodwill in my heart. I think that this kind of community that I have found here is so special, and I hope that we can continue to grow together, build together. At the very least, I hope that you enjoy this video, and thank you all for being here. Okay, as I get ready to start filming this video, it's come to my attention that I own 4 out of the 5 books that I was going to talk about today, and that bothers me just enough that I am actually going to go to Barnes & Noble really quickly and buy the one book that I'm missing, because I think that it will just make for a better video if I'm actually holding all 5 of the books instead of like holding 4 of them and then the 5th one is like just floating in outer space, like putting a screenshot up. So I'm just gonna go grab it because they have it in stock at my Barnes & Noble. It's kind of a gloomy day, but we are gonna go run and grab Moth Dark for today's video because I loved it anyway. Like, I read the arc and I really enjoyed it. So it's been out for a few months now and I just haven't picked it up yet, but I liked it, so I have no qualms about going to buy it and adding it to my personal collection. See, like, I've got these ones laid out and it just feels wrong to not have the 5th. So I have my tote bag that I got at the Penguin Random House Gala during BookCon weekend. So we're gonna take this and we are gonna run to Barnes & Noble.
To the salon!
Okay, and once again we will go in member order. So first up we have Soobin, our tuba 2 leader. And for Soobin, I would recommend Welcome to the Hyunamdong Bookshop by Hwang Bo-rum. And I really feel like if I had to give a genre to Soobin, it would be healing fiction, both because he really, I feel like, has a very healing sort of personality or quality about him, but also I think that he would benefit from healing fiction a lot. You know, as the leader of a K-pop group, that is an incredibly stressful, high-pressure job to have. So I think that healing fiction would really help him unwind a little bit, maybe decompress some. I've read a few titles that fall into the healing fiction category, and Welcome to the Hyunamdong Bookshop is by far my favorite that I've read so far. This book brought me a lot of peace and a lot of stress relief as I was reading it. It's very slow paced, it's a very rest oriented, calm, peaceful, really slice of life kind of book that just makes you feel really warm and fuzzy and peaceful and happy. And I just think that Soobin could benefit from all of those feelings. Like, as the leader of a K-pop group, what is going to both help lower his blood pressure and help him find a little bit of peace and quiet and calm and rest? This book. I will also say that Soobin is one of the quieter members. I think that he seems to have a very reflective or pensive kind of element to his personality that I think really would mesh well with this book. I think that this book might resonate with him, give him some quiet time to sort of like step away from his role and his responsibilities for a little bit and just be a customer at the Hyunamdong Bookshop, where he can kind of set down the weight that he carries on his shoulders, set down the burdens, you know, of just life in general, and just be at peace for a little bit. So I think that this kind of matches his personality. I think that he would just benefit greatly from having read this book. The heartwarming Korean smash hit, Welcome to the Hyunamdong Bookshop, follows Yeonjun, who is burned out. She did everything right. She went to school, got married, had a pretty good career, but it was just not it for her anymore. So Yeonjun abandons her old life and, in a leap of faith, leaves it all behind and opens the Hyunamdong Bookshop. And it becomes a place where she and her customers come together and kind of have a place where they can leave the burdens of everyday life at the door, just leave it behind and come in and just be surrounded by books and the healing power of books. It's just a really cozy and heartwarming story, reminding you that it's never too late to start over, it's never too late to be who you want to be. I would say that it's very slice of life, it's extremely low stakes, and it is very comforting. It's also just an incredibly easy book to fully immerse yourself in and really sink into. It covers a lot of really big topics as far as, like, you know, things that I feel like people kind of take time to reflect on every now and then in their own personal lives. Things like burnout. Obviously, Yeonjun, the main character, was very burned out. That's why she decided to completely start over in a brand new life. The search for authenticity. It has a lot of commentary about success and specifically what that does or doesn't look like in your adult years. It addresses loneliness as an adult. It covers a gamut of human relationships, not just romantic ones, but familial and platonic and friendships, and just how humans come together and interact with one another. And I would have to say, if I could compare this to another form of media, I would say that it is similar in vibes, not in plot, but it's similar to the K-drama Love Next Door, if you've ever seen that, where it just feels so raw and so real life, and really big and sometimes difficult topics come up and are addressed and worked through and processed. It also has a really ensemble cast, similar to Love Next Door, I would say. So if you enjoyed the K-drama Love Next Door, I do think that you would also enjoy this. So that is a little bit about Welcome to the Hyunam Bookshop. This was a 5-star read for me. I loved this one. This was one of my favorite books from 2024. I read this originally at the very end of 2024. It was also part of my 7 books in 7 days readathon video that I did in the past. I'll put it somewhere around here. So if you want to hear a little bit more about me rambling about this book in particular, you can check out that video. Okay, next for Yeonjun, I would recommend Moth Dark by Kika Hatsupolu. And the best way that I can kind of describe Moth Dark, I had an ARC, like an advanced reader's copy for this one before it came out. And in my NetGalley review for it, I kind of summed it up as Pacific Rim, which if you've not seen Pacific Rim, are you familiar with kaijus? I'll put a picture of a kaiju. It's kind of like Godzilla. But I said Pacific Rim and kaijus meet The Cruel Prince in an urban fantasy setting with tangled up and overlapping timelines. So that is kind of like the vibe. If I had to set a vibe for this book, Pacific Rim x The Cruel Prince x urban fantasy setting x tangled up timelines. And if that's not enough to interest you, Moth Dark takes place in basically present day Manhattan, maybe a version of Manhattan slightly in the future, where this giant chasm has opened up in the middle of the city, and it's called the Maw, and it is part of the Dark. Dark with a capital D. The Maw is not the only one. There are others like it that have opened up around the world, but this one takes place in New York City. And the Dark is like this rift that's opened into another world, and dark creatures can come out of the dark. They live in the dark, they can come out of the dark. Saskia is enamored with the dark. She has always been fascinated by it, drawn towards it, pulled towards it. She is not scared of it. And one day she actually pulls a person out of the dark, and that person is Nugo. And the subsequent relationship and events that follow after Saskia pulls Nugo out of the dark are far too complex to try and summarize in this short little video. But remember, I mentioned tangled up timelines, okay? Nugo is heir to the dark world. And the first time that Saskia pulls them out of the dark, and it is their first time meeting that she can remember, Nugo claims to be delivering a death sentence to Saskia for a battle that she has no memory of in a war that has not taken place yet. So very early on, we learn that time works differently in the dark. The magic of the dark is something that was very enchanting and mesmerizing to me as I was reading this book. I'm like Saskia, I'm not scared, sign me up, this is all very cool to me. But after this initial meeting, the timelines have officially converged, they start becoming all tangled up. So Saskia and Nugo meet multiple times at different times in the dark, if that makes sense. Like the timeline in Manhattan is linear, but the creatures that come in and out of the dark are coming in and out of the dark at different times. So the second time that Nugo and Saskia cross paths, Nugo does not recognize Saskia at all. Saskia recognizes them because she's like, you tried to kill me. And Nugo has absolutely no memory of this because it is the version of Nugo that predates any of the events that happen between Nugo and Saskia. Oh my god, I cannot believe I forgot to mention that Nugo is an elf. You see the pointy ear? I think that probably my favorite thing about this mesmerizing and complex and tingly timey-wimey story is the way that gender and gender identity was explored in this book. The dark beings can actually change their gender between male, female, non-binary, and gender fluid at will. So you can see Nugo has these purple marks right here on their face, and this would mean right here that he's presenting as male, but they change color. The markings on their faces change color depending on how they're choosing to present their gender identity on any given day. I loved that. I love a queer normative world, but I really loved how beautiful it was, like the way that gender identity was just expressed so fluidly in this book. And specifically, I love how often Nugo changes their gender throughout the book and how natural it feels for them to do so. I really loved that element of the story very much. So anyway, if you are a fan of gender fluid elf princess who come from the dark and want to kill you the first time you meet them and then don't even know you the second time that you meet, this book could be for you. But anyway, why did I recommend it for Yeonjun? First of all, my recommendation for Yeonjun was almost The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, but when I really sat down to think about it, I feel like this one is one that he would be more interested in, just because I think that Yeonjun would really love Nugo's character, and I think that Yeonjun would just be really fascinated by the way that gender is expressed in the dark in general. Something that I have always appreciated about Yeonjun so much is that he really seeks to kind of take gender out of fashion. You know, he wears crop tops, he wears skirts. He, in the Vogue Korea interview that he did back in 2021, talked about how Bong Tae-gyu was literally one of his inspirations as far as like starting to wear skirts, because who decided what constitutes men's clothing versus women's clothing? Why do we have to label things as male versus female? You know, I mean, he's made Weverse posts and X posts where he's, you know, famously said, like, men can wear skirts too. And he has famously been photographed in that like Fandom Tours content wearing a shirt on the back that has check boxes and it's like male, female, person. And it's just like person being checked. So I think that Yeonjun just does such a good job at taking gender out of fashion. You know, like that airport outfit he wore where the shirt says, "The earth speaks to all of us." He's just so inclusive. I just love how vocal and outspoken he is about genderless fashion and like really blurring the lines between what people have decided to label as like male versus female in the fashion world. And so I just think that he would really understand the assignment with Moth Dark. I think that he would appreciate Nuko's character so much, and I think that he would enjoy the story. Aside from like, you know, the really cool gender dynamics that are explored in Moth Dark, it is very action-packed. It has court intrigue. It has complicated royal political dynamics. It has obviously fights and battles, the weird element of time travel. It's got so much going on, so much going for it. I think that it would keep Yeonjun highly entertained. Okay, next, for Beomgyu, I am recommending The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I'm not sure if it's Poston or Poston. If you follow vowel, consonant, vowel, then it would be Poston, but I want to say Poston. Anyway, this is literally one of my favorite books of all time, ever. The 7-Year Slip follows Clementine West, who is very, very close to her aunt, and her aunt passes away, and it is a terrible, dreadful time for Clementine. But her aunt left her apartment to Clementine. So after her aunt passes away, Clementine moves into the apartment. Her aunt always said that the apartment was like a pension time, and Clementine never experienced that for herself until she moved into the apartment full time. One day she walks into the apartment and she finds a strange man in there, and he's like, "Hey, I'm staying here for the summer." And she's like, "No, you're not. What?" It becomes clear that Ewan, who is the man who's in her apartment, exists in the past. So sometimes you can walk through the door of the apartment and you wind up exactly 7 years in the past. And it's always 7 years. And Clementine's aunt's biggest piece of advice for her was to never fall in love in the apartment, because that's going to get complicated if you're falling in love with someone who's existing 7 years in your past and you're existing 7 years in their future. You can see how that gets very messy. But of course, this is a romance, so I'm sure you can imagine what happens. I love this book for so many reasons. I think everyone should read this book. Please, I'm begging. I would recommend this one for Beomgyu specifically because the book, similar to Beomgyu, on the outside looks very cute and fun and vibrant and loud. And on the outside, Beomgyu comes across as very loud and silly and goofy. But then when you get on the inside and you're reading about these big themes of grief and fate and love and timing, it's so much more than what meets the eye, is what I'm trying to say here. Like, there's so much more under the surface that you don't see or like pick up on when you're just looking at this happy-go-lucky fun yellow cover. And I feel like Beomgyu is very similar. Loud and goofy on the outside, but this is also the same man who wrote Panic and Take My Half. Okay? End of argument. But I also think that Beomgyu would, for the same reasons that I feel like his personality kind of matches the book, I think he would enjoy it because I think that he would really appreciate the deeper topics and themes that are explored throughout the book, like once he gets into it. It is just simply one of my favorite books of all time. Is this one mostly vibe-based? Yes. However, I do think that Beomgyu would appreciate the complexity of this novel and the absolute bittersweet, beautiful prose that is incorporated throughout. Once again, have you ever looked up the translations for Panic or Take My Half? The visceral, heart-wrenching emotion in his vocals from Take My Half. You can take my is exactly how I felt when reading The 7-Year Slip. It makes sense to me and in my brain, so just trust me, just trust me. Just trust me. Okay, for Taehyun, I would recommend The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I was about to say, this is another one of my favorite books. Duh, I literally led with the fact that I love all of these books. But I cannot overstate how fun The Inheritance Games is as a book. The whole series, this is actually the first in a trilogy. I think everything else that I've recommended so far has been standalone, but this is the first in a trilogy, and then there's also a few other like spin-off books that take place in the same universe and feature some of the same characters. But this is literally like, if you've ever seen the movie Knives Out, which is one of my favorite movies. I really like that movie. It's like if you turned the Knives Out plot into a book and made it young adult. It follows Avery Grams, who is a normal, average high school student just hoping to get a scholarship to be able to go to college. And one day, out of literally seemingly nowhere, billionaire Tobias Hawthorne passes away and leaves her nearly his entire fortune. But the only catch, in order for her to be able to accept this inheritance, is to move into the Hawthorne Mansion. And the Hawthorne Mansion is whack, okay? There are secret passageways, there are riddles, mysteries, clues. And of course, to make things super awkward, Hawthorne House is currently occupied by the family that Tobias just left and basically disinherited. And this family living in the house includes Tobias's 4 grandsons, who are all wildly different from one another, but they all grew up expecting that they would inherit some of these billions. So it makes the relationships incredibly complicated between Avery and the 4 Hawthorne brothers. 2 of the brothers are, I would say, featured a little bit more prominently than the other 2. One of them being Grayson. He was kind of like the heir apparent, and he is convinced that Avery must be a con woman. Somehow she's behind this. She like bamboozled their grandfather and somehow like finagled her way into this family and the inheritance. The other main brother is Jameson, and he sees things a little bit differently. He sees Avery as like their grandfather's last puzzle that has to be solved. And this is just like so fast-paced, so twisty. You are not going to expect how things connect. Like, why on earth did Tobias Hawthorne leave a seemingly random high school student his fortune? You will have to read to find out. There is danger, okay? People would kill for that kind of money. It's got like prep school kind of vibes, because obviously the Hawthornes go to a super elite private prep school kind of thing, which Avery then starts attending with them, and it's just this whole thing. There's just so much going on. This series was like so much fun for me. How does this one end again? Let's see. I literally have chills. I'm like reading the last line of this book. I have chills. It's time to reread. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. So good. Like, words can't do it justice. But anyway, why did I recommend this one for Taehyun? I was actually super stumped when it came to Taehyun because he's kind of hard to read sometimes, I feel like. But one thing that I do know about him is that he is insanely smart. I mean, if you're a MOA, I'm sure you're familiar with like the mashup videos that show him like doing mental math and how he like will tally up the results on, you know, like live performance shows and like realize that they've won and will stand up and start clapping like before the announcer has even announced it. He is super smart. The members have mentioned how smart he is. It is no secret that Taehyun is super smart. I knew that I wanted to recommend him something that was fast-paced and something that I felt like would hold his attention. So that's really ultimately how I landed on the Inheritance Games, because I think that this is something that would keep him engaged while he's reading. And I think that he would love trying to solve the riddles early, like ahead of the characters, and really try to put the pieces of the puzzle together before the end of the book to see if he could guess what was going to happen before the plot twists themselves actually take place. So I think that this would just be kind of like a mental puzzle for him to work through as he's reading, and I think for that reason he would really love it. And last but not least, for Kai, I would recommend People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. And I feel like maybe this will feel kind of like a whack sort of thing to recommend to Kai, but People We Meet on Vacation follows 2 best friends, Alex and Poppy. It takes place across 10 years. Alex and Poppy are complete opposites. Poppy is super loud and outgoing and adventurous, and Alex is super reserved and would rather stay home and read a book. They are from the same hometown but never knew each other. They meet in college when they learn that they're from the same hometown, and Alex drives Poppy home for like maybe it's the summer, maybe it's a vacation, like a break from school. But after that fateful car ride home, they become unlikely friends. And then even though they live apart for most of the time, Poppy lives in New York City and Alex lives in their hometown, 1 week out of every year during the summer, they take a trip together. So they've been doing that for the last decade until 2 years ago when everything went wrong on one of their trips, and they haven't spoken since. But Poppy really starts to question her life and where it's going and what makes her happy, and she realizes that the last time she was truly happy was on that last vacation she went on with Alex. So it's been 2 years and things are super weird and awkward, but she's like, hey, what if we took another vacation together and tried to fix things? And he miraculously agrees. And so this book is told back and forth in time, flashing back to vacations of summers past, and then also having scenes that are taking place in the present as Poppy and Alex are trying to fix their friendship and maybe learn what could lie beyond being just friends. I love Emily Henry. I've never read a book from her that I have not liked, but this one is a romantic comedy to its core. It is truly laugh out loud hilarious. And the reason that I would recommend this one to Kai is based entirely on one very specific thing. When I very first discovered Tomorrow by Together, was just getting into K-pop 3 summers ago. I think the very first interview that I ever watched when I was trying to learn more about them was the Vanity Fair How Well Do They Know Each Other video. And one of the questions that Kai asks the group is, what is his favorite K-drama? And the answer is Our Beloved Summer.
What's my favorite K-drama?
범규!
수빈!
왜 우리는?
Okay, correct. 근데 좀 지나긴 했는데 최근에 봤는데 재밌더라고요. 이게 뭔가 풋풋하고 뭔가 설레는 감정을 들 수 있어가지고 보면
로맨스야?
로맨스.
네.
You cried?
No?
No.
우는 건 저 얼마 없어요.
I think it must be because watching that interview for the first time created a core memory for me, because I still remember so many things from that video. I've watched it so many times now. There's something so special about the very first piece of K-pop content that you imprint on like a little baby duckling. Okay, and for me, it was the TXT Vanity Fair interview from 2023. I have not actually watched Our Beloved Summer, but I have looked into it, and if that was Kai's favorite K-drama at the time, I think that he would really enjoy People We Meet on Vacation. Similar to Our Beloved Summer, People We Meet on Vacation is a romantic comedy that follows 2 polar opposite main characters and how they navigate love and friendship through many different phases of life. And People We Meet on Vacation was recently, I think at the beginning of this year in January, adapted into a Netflix movie. So when Kai finishes reading this, he can watch the movie and he can enjoy that piece of media just like he enjoyed Our Beloved Summer. So this is maybe like my most logic-based recommendation. I'm like, oh, he liked Our Beloved Summer, he's gonna like People We Meet on Vacation. Or was this just part of my Emily Henry agenda, trying to figure out which member can I talk about Emily Henry with? How can I somehow work an Emily Henry recommendation into this video? That's one secret I'll never tell. Okay, and that is it for today's video. Those are the 5 books that I would recommend to the 5 members of Tomorrow by Together. I once again had a lot of fun with this. Am I just using this as an excuse to talk about some of my favorite books? Yes, probably. But I really would recommend these books to the members. I recommend them to all of you. These are all fantastic reads that I have really loved, and I hope that if you check any of these out that you wind up enjoying them as well. Please let me know in the comments if you wind up reading any of these, or if you've already read any of these. I would love to know if you've already read them, did you like them, and do you agree with my recommendations, or like my member matching? And if you have not read them but you decide to read any of them in the future, please come back and let me know what you think of them. Even if you didn't like them, like that won't hurt my feelings. Literature is a form of art. Art is always subjective. Even if you don't like it, let me know. I just like talking about books. Thank you so much for watching to the end if you are still here. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and please let me know in the comments what books you would recommend to the different members of Tomorrow by Together, because I genuinely would love to know. Like, I would love to know what other books you would recommend to the members, so please feel free to drop those in my comments. And I think that's pretty much it. Y'all want to go to bloopers now? I want to go to bloopers now. Bloopers are my favorite part of every video I do. Bye friends. Thank you for watching. 봐주셔서 감사합니다. 안녕 친구들. 이제 블루버리로 이동할 수 있습니다. 즐기세요. I feel like I'm out of frame if I come forward. So I don't like what I'm saying. Have I said anything worth anything yet? And I hope that this It's my toxic trait. Idle readers. Well, yeah, I mean, idle readers. Objective, subjective opinions. Is it objective or is it subjective? Can I hug them? Yeonjun? Yeonjun. Is it Saskia or Saskia? Hang on. And this was something that I really loved about, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. What if I chilled? Okay, I'm gonna consult my review one more time. Freaking love Nugo. I'm falling. I'm losing the plot. Can I like fan them out? Am I still recording? Hello? Oh, okay. Everything's fine. Ouch, my wrist.